My Omega nephew ran away from his wedding, so the family forced me to marry in his place. On the eve of the wedding, I overheard the groom complaining. Who wants to marry an old beta man 8 years older than himself? So, I signed an agreement with him. Once my nephew returned, we'd get divorced. 2 years later, my nephew really came back. I signed the papers, took off my wedding ring, packed my bags, and left far away. But he went crazy searching for me everywhere. 01. Who wants to marry an old beta man 8 years older than himself? I raised my hand, just about to knock on the door, when I heard this complaint from inside the room. The speaker's tone was full of disgust and contempt. Then another slightly older man said, "Your fiancé ran off. Whether you like it or not, you have to marry. Nicholas Ramirez may be a beta, but he's gentle and refined, a university professor with a presence that easily matches an Omega. When you meet him, show some respect." My father and uncle stood beside me, both looking awkward after hearing this. I smiled indifferently, pushing up my glasses on the bridge of my nose. Knock knock. I knocked on the door and then walked in. The Lee family father and son standing inside were slightly surprised. I greeted them warmly. "Anthony, Timothy, it's been a while." "Ah. Nicholas, you finally came." Everyone exchanged polite small talk as if nothing had happened. Anthony introduced. "Nicholas, this is my son Timothy. Please take good care of him." I casually glanced at the person I was to marry. Timothy, eldest son of the Lee family, 24 years old. By my estimate, he was about 190 centimeters tall, wearing a striped business suit with a black shirt underneath, muscles tightly wrapped under the fabric full of strength. His looks were flawless, with sharp features and deep-set eyes. Hormones practically radiated from him, a true S+ grade alpha. No wonder he looked down on me, an old beta. I paid no mind to the earlier rude comment, smiled gently at him, and reached out my hand first. "Nice to meet you." Timothy was momentarily stunned but then pursed his lips and shook my hand. That was our first meeting. A few days later, Timothy and I registered our marriage and held a grand wedding. The wedding was originally planned for my nephew Charles Collins, but he ran away at the last minute, abandoning everything to chase his dream. News of the alliance marriage had already spread throughout the business world. It was a point of no return. For the family's reputation, my grandfather and eldest uncle personally arranged for me to marry Timothy in Charles's place. Because I was the only unmarried adult in the family. After the wedding, Timothy took out 2 copies of a contract and told me firmly, "Let me be clear, you're not my type. My dad said if Charles comes back, I can switch partners. Until then, we have 3 rules: don't get serious with me, don't interfere in my personal affairs." I agreed without hesitation. "No problem, I feel the same way." Marrying him wasn't my choice, reaching an agreement was the best outcome. The contract stated that if Charles returned, I had to sign for divorce without objection. Of course, Timothy would compensate me financially. Good, straightforward. Timothy nodded in satisfaction, signed first, and pressed his fingerprint. "I'm signing first, here's the contract for you to keep." After saying that, he left the bridal room without looking back. 2 years later. Half asleep, I felt a prickling sensation on my lips and face. I struggled to open my eyes. What met my gaze was Timothy's large handsome face, rubbing his stubble against me while slipping his hand inside my pajamas to knead. "Get up, breakfast is ready." I impatiently pulled his hand out and turned over to go back to sleep. Timothy lay on top of me, smirking wickedly. "Still not getting up? Need a little motivation?" I mumbled groggily. "Don't bother me. I'll sleep a bit more." I'd been busy organizing research papers, working overtime until late every night. Timothy protested. "How many days has it been since you ignored me? You promised to go watch the race with me today. Get up, or I'll take your pants off." 02. I quickly grabbed Timothy's hand as he tried to pull down my waistband. Okay, I'm getting up, let go." If he succeeded, I wouldn't get anything else done today. Timothy bit my earlobe, not too hard, not too soft. He breathed into my ear. I'll let you off for now, but you owe me tonight. He half dragged, half carried me to the bathroom. As usual, Timothy filled the sink with mouthwash and squeezed toothpaste onto the brush. Hurry up, I'll warm up the pancakes again. He said that and dashed off to the dining room. I stood in front of the mirror brushing my teeth, drifting through memories of the past 2 years. When we first married, Timothy and I couldn't stand each other. Who would have thought we'd get this clingy now? It all started about 1.5 years ago. We went to Jiangqing next door to celebrate his grandfather's 70th birthday. That night, Timothy drank and triggered his heat cycle. Ignoring my protests, he pinned me down and went at it for 2 days and nights until I couldn't get out of bed. When he sobered up, he showed no remorse, even said he never expected it to feel so good with me. I'm not young anymore, and since we're legally married, I couldn't exactly scream rape. So, I had to accept it. I calmly told Timothy. This was an accident. It can't happen again. He didn't take it seriously and tried to force me again a few days later. I shot back. Didn't you say I'm not your type and you didn't want this to get real? Timothy threw a tantrum. As long as it feels good, who cares about liking or not liking? Just mutual benefit. Basically, he wanted to be my hookup buddy. I couldn't help but laugh and cry. I'm a low libido beta and couldn't understand an alpha who thinks with his lower half. No matter how much I refused, Timothy was relentless, and he eventually got what he wanted again. I've always gone with the flow, less trouble is better, and after sleeping with him a few times, I started to get hooked. No real loss anyway, having a warm bedmate isn't so bad. So I half-heartedly accepted him and moved into the marital home prepared by the Lee family. Once we clicked physically, things started to fall into place in other ways. We began spending more and more time together. 6 months after marriage, we really got to know each other. I'm an archaeology major, and my family owns many important ancient books and artifacts, so I never hired housekeeping help. I usually cleaned on weekends and just grabbed whatever food was at school during the week. Because of my irregular diet, my stomach got weak. Timothy learned to make soups to help me recover and cook dishes I liked with different recipes. I was surprised a rich heir knew how to cook, and he proudly said. I studied abroad and none of the maids cooked well, so I learned myself. Impressed? Sometimes, to spice things up, Timothy took me out sailing, skiing, or to see the northern lights, just to change the scenery for, well, other activities. Of course, he also supported my hobbies. I liked museums, mystery movies, and pottery, and he'd tag along. Every morning, after his run, he'd make breakfast and call me to get up. Though just bedmates at first, our relationship now wasn't much different from any other married couple. But I never forgot the agreement between us. I reminded myself not to fall too deep. Losing my body wasn't a big deal, but my heart was off limits. 03. After breakfast, Timothy and I headed to the racetrack. He used to love motorcycle racing and even formed his own team. Once, Timothy crashed and broke his leg. I took time off to care for him at home. After a week, he hugged my waist and pouted. Wifey, I'm going crazy, I want. I glared at him. None of that, just lie still. He begged. How about you ride me instead? No way. Half a month later, he fully recovered and disbanded the team, never racing again. When the urge hit, he dragged me to watch races. We took seats in the VIP area. Motorcycles zoomed by on the track, kicking up fierce winds as they roared past. I wasn't interested in extreme sports and kept yawning, but Timothy held my hand tightly, watching with excitement. I pulled out my phone with one hand, scrolling, when I suddenly saw a private message from my cousin. Bro, found that bastard Charles. My pupils shrank, suddenly alert. I instinctively looked at Timothy, who was still staring intently at the race. I pulled my hand away, and he turned to ask. What's wrong? Bathroom. I got up, and he followed. I'll come with you. No, I know where it is. You keep watching. The race was on its final lap, the riders preparing to sprint. Timothy didn't insist and obediently sat back down. I hurried to a quiet corner and called my cousin. When he answered, I asked directly, "Where's Charles?" He rambled. That punk chased some singer dream, got scammed and lost everything, then went to sing in a country bar. My dad's people found him a few days ago, his dad and mine personally went to get him. He should be back today. My heart jolted. Today? Yeah. His family's embarrassed and hasn't told anyone else. I'm the only one telling you behind my dad's back. Mixed emotions flooded me. I knew Charles would come back eventually, but not this suddenly. My cousin kept talking. That bastard ruined you. You're against marriage, but had to marry that difficultly family heir because of him. What a mess. When he's back, don't let him off. My ears buzzed, I couldn't hear clearly anymore. Absent-mindedly, I said, "Thanks for telling me," and hung up. The crowd at the racetrack erupted, the race was over. My heart sank deeper with every beat. Charles's return meant the deal with Timothy had to be fulfilled. Hadn't I prepared myself? So why did I feel so weighed down now? Confused, I walked back. At the corner, I suddenly heard muffled sobbing. I stopped, peeked around the wall. A handsome alpha in racing gear stood face to face with a slender beta. The beta's shoulders shook as he wept quietly. I recognized them. The alpha was Aaron, a somewhat famous racer, and his boyfriend was a beta. When Timothy and I came to watch the race before, they came over to greet us and said they aimed to overcome difficulties and succeed, using us as an example. Aaron sighed helplessly. My family always opposed us dating. My dad told you, if you got pregnant, he'd consider letting me marry you. But it's been 3 years with no baby, and I'm at a loss. The beta's hoarse voice replied. You said you loved me for me, didn't care about having kids. That was before. Things have changed now. I didn't want to eavesdrop further, curious though I was. I was about to leave when a delicate Omega came running up. The Omega shouted. Husband. 04. He grabbed the arm of the racing alpha and shouted unhappily at the beta. Why are you still coming after Aaron? Don't you understand how to part on good terms? Do I have to say something harsh? The beta stared blankly at the Omega. Aaron, he is. Aaron scratched his face awkwardly, and the Omega proudly declared his claim. I'm Aaron's fiancé. Both our families have met. Please have some self-awareness, a beta who can't bear children, daring to want to marry an alpha. Are you trying to end our bloodline? The beta looked utterly shocked and asked Aaron in disbelief. Aaron, is what he said true? Aaron barely whispered, yeah. The beta staggered back a few steps, covered his mouth in humiliation, and walked away. Aaron watched him reluctantly but didn't follow. The Omega clung to Aaron's arm, whining and threatening not to let him get back with that beta, so Aaron could only soothe him endlessly. After they left, I stood there for a long time. The scene I just witnessed perfectly mirrored my own situation with Timothy and Charles. To outsiders, an alpha-beta relationship is such a shameful thing. Being a beta means you're a burden on the family line. I bitterly smiled, took off my glasses, and rubbed the bridge of my nose. Taking a deep breath, I made sure I had calmed down. I returned to the VIP seats as if nothing had happened. Timothy happily told me his team had won the race. I smiled and said, "That's great." Timothy put his arm around me and said, "There's still time later. Want to go to the museum? There's a new exhibit this weekend." I shook my head, "No, I'm a bit tired." I was truly exhausted. Before, I could stay up late without feeling drained, but now just a few days of overtime wore me out. I just couldn't get energized. Time doesn't wait for anyone, you have to accept getting older. All right, then. After dinner, we'll go to that private restaurant you like? Sure, whatever. That private restaurant was small and quiet, run by a delicate and charming Omega. The owner personally served our dishes. I noticed his slightly rounded belly and said quickly, "Boss, make sure you get enough rest. We're old friends now." The owner blushed and smiled shyly. "It's fine. This is my third pregnancy, I'm used to it. Take your time eating." After he left, I watched his back thoughtfully. Timothy offered me some boiled fish slices. Seeing I didn't pick up my chopsticks, he asked, "What's wrong?" I looked slowly at him. Timothy was 26 this year, in his prime. He was still the eldest son, the Lee family definitely wanted an heir. I deliberately asked, "Omegas are generally fertile, right? Pregnancy is easy for them?" Timothy propped his chin on his hand and winked at me suggestively. "What? Jealous? Then I'll try harder tonight." I chuckled. "Don't bother, I'm just a beta." "So what if you're a beta? If you do it right, you can get pregnant." Then he added, "But honestly, if you were an Omega and we did this every day, you'd probably have 2 kids by now." I raised an eyebrow and joked, "Too bad I'm not an Omega. Betas aren't completely unable to get pregnant, but it's rare, and the offspring aren't guaranteed to be alphas. Like Aaron's situation, miracles don't happen for everyone." Unaware of my thoughts, Timothy urged, "Enough with all this. Eat quickly or the fish will get cold and taste fishy." I ate without taste, my mind already made up. Nothing lasts forever, and no one stays good forever. The dream was over, it was time to wake up. That night, Timothy greedily demanded me, and I responded more passionately than usual. The last time, leaving a memory. The next day, Timothy had golf with his partners and originally wanted me to come, but I made an excuse and declined. I had already booked a moving company the night before. The staff arrived and packed up everything in just an hour and a half. I took the agreement out of the safe. Timothy's signature and bright red fingerprint wiped away all the lingering reluctance in my heart. 05. He signed so decisively back then, so I had no reason to hesitate now. I picked up a pen and boldly signed my name, then stamped my fingerprint. I placed one copy of the agreement on Timothy's desk in his study and took off the platinum wedding ring from my ring finger, placing it on top of the papers. I checked the time, Timothy wouldn't be back until the afternoon. Without a word, I ran away. What would his reaction be? Would he feel reluctant too? Or angry? I shook my head at my own foolish hopes. Timothy originally liked soft, cute Omegas. He only accepted me, an old beta, because I was easily available. Why refuse free? Why humiliate myself? I admit I once had unrealistic fantasies about Timothy, thinking maybe he felt some genuine affection beyond just lust. But reality was I was older and a beta who struggled to conceive. The marriage was all forced by circumstances. Now that the real heir Charles was back, I shouldn't hold on to what wasn't mine. I wasn't ready to fully let go, nor did I want to hear news about those 2 for now. I planned to email the school administration and request all my accumulated vacation days at once. At 3 in the afternoon, Timothy messaged me. "Wifey, dinner at home or out tonight?" The words, wifey, stung like a knife. From now on, Charles would be his wife. I calmly replied, "You eat with your friends, no need to rush home." He asked, "Why? Won't you be lonely at home?" I didn't reply. I switched to a new SIM card and sent a message to my family telling them I was traveling and not to look for me for a while. Then I grabbed my bags and drove off alone. I planned to visit some unprotected ancient villages for academic research and a change of scenery. I drove all day and stopped at a small inn to rest. That night, my dad called. He asked straight away, "Didn't you tell Xiaotang you're traveling?" I asked back, "What's wrong with Timothy? He's been searching everywhere for you, going crazy. What's going on between you 2? Did you fight?" I rubbed my temples. "Charles is back. Have you heard? Sounds like he's back." Wait, what does that have to do with you and Xiaotang? I spoke seriously. Tell Timothy that Charles is back and we have to honor the agreement. Then he'll understand. What agreement? Call him yourself and talk it out. I sighed. Dad, I drove all day and I'm tired. Not now. I hung up and turned off my phone to sleep. The next day, I contacted a junior from college. He's also a beta, named Alexander Gray. Alexander has his own private studio and flexible schedule. When he heard about my plan to visit the ancient village, he immediately wanted to join. We met in town, and Alexander, being thoughtful, hired a local guide to help us explore. I expected an elderly local, but it turned out to be a young, handsome alpha. Nicholas, nice to meet you. Just call me Joseph. Joseph smiled brightly and shook my hand warmly. I smiled politely back, nice to meet you. Please take care of us. Alexander said. Joseph has been working as a guide here for a long time. With him leading, we'll avoid a lot of detours. Since Alexander arranged it, I had no objections. The village is remote and only accessible by foot. Joseph led the way, and when the path got rough, he thoughtfully turned back to help me. 06. Alexander teased him. Joseph, why are you only helping Nicholas and ignoring me? Joseph's dark face flushed slightly as he reached out to Alexander, but Alexander waved him off. I'm just joking. I'm always out and about, not as refined as Senior here. Just take care of him. When we arrived at the village, it felt like stepping into a new world. Everywhere was filled with tranquility and an ancient charm, with buildings hundreds of years old. The villagers looked at us curiously, and Joseph communicated with them in the local dialect. The warm-hearted villagers quickly accepted us and even let us inside their homes to visit. I busily took photos and videos. Since there was no signal in the village, my phone hadn't rung all day. In the afternoon, we returned to town for a meal. I hadn't eaten anything since morning, and though the table was full of local specialties, I still had no appetite. Joseph asked, Nicholas, is this food not to your taste? I forced a polite reply. No, maybe a bit of water and soil mismatch, my stomach isn't adjusting well. I'd been feeling bloated and had acid reflux these past days. I forced myself to drink some soup and ate a few bites. While eating, my phone rang. I checked the caller ID, it was from Haisher City. Was it family calling? I pressed answer. Hello. Where have you gone? I couldn't reach you all this time. Timothy's anxious yet angry voice came through. I stepped aside to answer calmly. Oh, the signal's bad. What's up? I should be asking you. What's going on? Why suddenly go on a trip? You could have told me. I could have taken time off to go with you. Timothy bombarded me with questions. I doubted he understood the situation, so I calmly explained. Anthony, my nephew Charles is back. According to our agreement, our marriage ends here. I've already entrusted a lawyer to handle the procedures. Once I'm back, we can get the divorce certificate. Timothy was silent for a few seconds, then exploded in rage. What are you saying? You want a divorce? You want to divorce me? Explain yourself. I frowned, pulled the phone a bit away, and rubbed my ear. Why was he reacting like this? I was baffled. After he yelled, I continued. Anthony, you drew up the agreement and signed it first. We agreed to divorce once Charles returned. Don't tell me you forgot. Timothy stammered on the other end. But I spoke in a businesslike tone. Please fulfill the compensation you promised as soon as possible. I have other matters to attend to. Goodbye. I ended the call, but Timothy called again. I answered, annoyed. What now? Timothy's tone softened. Wife, did I do something wrong to upset you? Why was he still calling me wife? I patiently explained. You did nothing wrong, and I'm not angry. I'm just fulfilling the promise. Also, please stop calling me wife, Charles is the one. While I spoke, Alexander came running over. Senior, do you want to? He stopped mid-sentence when he saw I was on the phone. Timothy overheard and furiously exploded again. Who are you with? Which guy? It's my junior from college. I realized I didn't owe him any explanation and changed tone. That's my private matter and has nothing to do with you, Anthony. Nicholas. Timothy shouted my full name, voice practically spitting fire. If you dare cheat on me, I won't forgive you. Crazy. I really couldn't reason with him, so I decisively hung up. He called again, but I didn't answer. 07. That afternoon, we headed to another village. I barely ate at lunch and after some walking began feeling dizzy, short of breath, and nauseous. Not wanting Alexander and the others to worry, I kept quiet and endured it. By the time we returned to the hotel, I was nearly fainting. I collapsed onto the bed and couldn't get up even if the sky fell. I don't know how long I slept before loud banging on the door woke me. I groggily opened my eyes halfway. The room was bright, and I glanced at the phone by my pillow. It was already 10 a.m. I'd overslept. Panic instantly woke me fully. The knocking continued along with Alexander's anxious calls. Senior. What's wrong? Senior. I answered weakly, coming, and got up to put on my slippers. Just as I stood up, dizziness hit me hard and the world spun. I hurriedly grabbed the nightstand for support. Low blood sugar. I thought. After a while, I regained some strength, put on my glasses, and opened the door. Sorry, I was about to apologize to Alexander but suddenly saw Timothy standing behind him with a grim expression. My heart skipped a beat. Damn it! Why was he here? Timothy's hair was messy, his eyes bloodshot, and his stubble unshaven. He looked like he'd pulled several all-nighters. I gasped softly and was about to speak when Timothy shoved Alexander aside and strode straight up to me. He pressed me into the room, then slammed the door shut behind him. The lock clicked automatically. Outside, Alexander shouted. Senior, I explained to your husband, we're just ordinary friends. Tell him to calm down. Inside, no one spoke first. Timothy's gaze locked onto me like a hunter eyeing its prey. I had been confident before but felt suddenly guilty under his stare. I forced myself to stay calm and avoided his eyes, walking to the small table to pour water. Why did Anthony come? I asked. Timothy spat between clenched teeth. Come back with me. I took a few sips of warm water and gently put down the cup. I already made it clear on the phone yesterday. Timothy strode behind me, grabbed my shoulder, and turned me to face him. That damn agreement is worthless. That was 2 years ago. I tried to shake off his hand, but he held tight. I sighed helplessly. Anthony is a businessman, please honor the contract. To hell with contracts, he snapped, don't think you can leave me. You married me, you're mine forever. Timothy coming here showed he cared, but it wasn't enough to change my mind. I said calmly. Don't talk about forever. You can overturn things from 2 years ago, but years later, you'll change too. I won't. I've never cared for anyone else, only you. I will never change. His eyes burned with urgency. I was unmoved. Anthony, I'm 34 now, not a naive kid. I've seen too many cases. In marriage, what holds people together in the end isn't feelings but conscience. Timothy was shocked. Are you saying I have no conscience? I don't. I shook off his hand choking my shoulder, speaking firmly. I'm a beta who's hard to get pregnant. Even if you don't marry Charles now, there will be many omegas to choose from later. The Lee family elders had you marry me only to buy time. They never planned for me to cause you to lose heirs. Our marriage was wrong from the start. Timothy pleaded. That's not true. Don't talk about heirs and pregnancies. I just want you. I remembered what I saw at the racing club. Aaron thought the same at first and still lost to reality. My heart was like a rock. People change. Don't speak so confidently. It's better to cut losses now than suffer long-term pain. It's more dignified for both of us to part without tearing each other apart. Seeing I was unmoved, Timothy clenched his fists and ground his teeth. So you're determined to leave me, huh? I'm just following your original plan. Before I could finish, Timothy suddenly wrapped me in a hug and lifted me onto his shoulder. Dizziness hit me again as he carried me off. 08. What are you doing? Put me down. I stretched out my arms and pressed hard against his broad back, trying to resist, but Timothy controlled me with one hand. Since you refuse to cooperate, I'll carry you back myself, he said firmly, then opened the door. Ignoring Alexander's shocked expression, Timothy stepped out. Alexander stammered, "Say senior." I begged him. "Alexander. Help me." Alexander had no choice but to step in front of Timothy and stop him. "Mr. Lee, calm down. Let's talk this through." Timothy snapped, overflowing with dominance. "This is my family matter. Outsiders better not interfere." Alexander looked helpless as Timothy bypassed him and kept walking. I struggled so hard I even lost my glasses, pounding on Timothy and shouting, "Put me down. You have no right to force me. Let go." Just as Timothy was heading downstairs, a shadow suddenly rushed past. Bang! Someone punched Timothy. Timothy staggered and let me drop. I barely landed and steadied myself when Timothy grabbed me from behind. Timothy and his attacker started exchanging blows. It was only then I recognized Joseph. "Timothy! Stop fighting." Alexander ran over to break it up, but the two were so enraged they ignored him. Alexander and I were too small to stop two towering alpha men fighting in the corridor. The commotion quickly drew the hotel staff. "What's going on? Stop fighting. Cut it out." Everyone rushed in to pull them apart. I held Timothy's waist, pulling him back while Alexander pushed Joseph away. Timothy pulled me into his arms and gritted his teeth. "Don't tell me he's your junior too." Joseph, out of breath, glared at him. I lowered my voice. "He's the tour guide. Can you stop making a scene?" Someone asked. "Should we call the police?" Alexander hurriedly explained. "No need, we all know each other. It's a misunderstanding. Sorry for the trouble." I apologized as well. In the end, Alexander persuaded Joseph to leave, and I dragged Timothy back to the room. This little uproar gave me a chance to escape, for now. Timothy had bruises and scrapes on his face. I couldn't ignore it, so I borrowed a first aid kit from the staff. He sat on the edge of the bed while I leaned over, using cotton swabs dipped in iodine to disinfect his wounds. Timothy wrapped his arms around my waist and pulled me down onto his lap. I sat astride his legs, annoyed. "Can you behave for once?" He answered as if it were obvious. "Isn't this the perfect position? No need to bend over and get tired." As he spoke, he lowered his head and kissed my neck. I pinched his ear to pull him away. "Get off! I haven't finished the medicine yet." Suddenly he pushed his hips up against me. I gasped, noticing the change in his body. I was half annoyed, half amused. "What are you doing?" "When my wife gets mad, she looks so beautiful." He reached up and brushed my bangs aside. I waved his hand away. "Don't call me that." "I will. Wife, wife, wife. You're my wife." He kept teasing me with that. I didn't dare provoke him further, worried he might go crazy and carry me off again. So I stayed silent. After finishing the medicine, Timothy still forced me to stay on his lap. He held me close and buried his face in my chest, rubbing around. "Wife, don't leave me. I really can't live without you." This was his usual tactic: start tough to scare me, then turn soft and clingy. He pushed and pulled until I gave in. That's how he always had me wrapped around his finger. Not this time. I interrupted. Have you seen Charles? Timothy looked up, his eyes almost spilling with resentment. Why mention him? Why would I want to see him? 09. Charles is a top-notch beauty. Maybe he's your type, I was about to ramble when Timothy slammed his lips on mine, biting and sucking in frustration. His big hands gripped the back of my head, refusing to let me pull away. My lips went numb and swollen, barely able to breathe before he finally let go. Our noses touched, his breath unsteady. Don't say things like that again. Your wife is only you, and always will be. I don't care if he's beautiful or not. Dizzy, I still couldn't help but remind him. Only an Omega can bear you strong airs, Timothy flipped me onto the bed, completely pinning me down. He undid his buttons, revealing a well-toned body. His face was still bruised, his gaze wild and dominant as he looked down at me, and I was utterly defenseless. I shook my head, pleading. Don't. He muttered. You always use that mouth to say things that piss me off, so it needs to be silenced. I lost the chance to speak any further. The whole day passed in a daze like that. The next day, Timothy stubbornly refused to leave, sticking to me like glue, so I had no choice but to take him along for the archaeology trip. I sighed helplessly to Alexander. Alexander, sorry. Anthony insists on tagging along. Alexander cautiously glanced at Timothy behind me and smiled awkwardly. No problem, more people means more help. Soon Joseph joined us, and the two alphas immediately locked horns. Even though I couldn't smell pheromones, I felt the tension rise. They were quietly competing. I whispered to Timothy. Don't cause trouble, or I won't bring you. Timothy didn't answer but suddenly leaned in and pecked me on the lips right in front of the others. Alexander and Joseph widened their eyes, and I shyly bounced away from him. Alexander tried to ease the awkwardness. Senior and Anthony are so lovey-dovey, really makes people jealous. Timothy pulled me fiercely, and I was almost too embarrassed to face anyone. The place we were going today was even more remote than the last village, rumored to be deserted. After walking some distance, I started feeling dizzy and short of breath again. Before, when Timothy wasn't around, I'd endured the discomfort, even pretending to be fine when Alexander asked. But today, when Timothy saw my pale face, he asked what was wrong, and I admitted it immediately. Dizzy and nauseous. Without hesitation, Timothy helped me sit under a shady tree, gave me water, and fanned me. Having someone I trusted by my side, I didn't want to pretend anymore. Feeling guilty about holding everyone up, I told Alexander. Alexander, sorry, maybe you guys should go ahead. I'll rest a bit and catch up. Alexander nodded and left first with Joseph. No sooner had they gone than Timothy lifted me onto his lap. You look terrible. If you don't feel well, we can go back. I glanced at him. Didn't you keep me up all night? Timothy shamelessly said. I haven't eaten for 3 days. Of course, I have to make up for it. Can you put something else in your head for a change? My head's full of you and nothing else. Timothy grabbed my hand and pressed it to his chest, gazing lovingly. I love you so much I'm losing my mind. And you still don't believe me. So cheesy. My face turned red, and I pulled my hand away. Come on, you're only good in bed. Otherwise, why would you look twice at an old beta 8 years your senior? Timothy protested. The great teamwork's true, but I've liked you from the start. I was deliberate the first time. I narrowed my eyes sharply. What do you mean deliberate? 10. Timothy held me close and confessed. I've wanted to sleep with you for a long time, but you kept avoiding me and wouldn't come home at night. I was out of options. Remember when we went to Jiangqing for my grandfather's birthday? That night my heat came early. I actually took the medication ahead of time because I knew you're soft-hearted and couldn't just stand by seeing me suffer. I was furious and twisted his ear in anger. So you've been scheming against me all along. Who told you to be so tempting? Timothy shamelessly said. You have no pheromones, yet you're irresistible. Slim waist, perky butt, a smile that's both innocent and seductive. Whenever you speak, I react. You're a demon born to seduce me. I didn't know whether to be angry or laugh. Timothy wrapped his arms around my waist, pleading. Wife, let's make up, okay? I admit I was too harsh before. I shouldn't have looked down on you. Please don't leave me. I tried to stay clear-headed. That's not the point. Alpha and beta don't usually end well. Timothy interrupted me. Honestly, you just lack security. How about this? After we get back, I'll transfer all my shares to you. If I ever do you wrong, I'll lose everything. I began to waver. Don't joke, that's your family's business. Aren't they all mine because of you? As he spoke, I suddenly felt the ground shake. Then, stones started raining down with a crackling sound. I looked up and saw a landslide. The hillside nearby was collapsing in a mix of rocks and dust. Before I could react, Timothy had already lifted me and started running. The mudslide chased us like a roaring beast. The dust burned my eyes so badly I could barely open them. Timothy suddenly stumbled forward, and I felt dizzy. Everything went black. Drip, drip. Something wet fell on my face. I closed my eyes and instinctively touched it. My fingers came away sticky and warm. This was. I rubbed my fingertips. Blood. I snapped my eyes open. Timothy was above me, pinned under stones and mud but still straining to support an empty space for me to be safe. Blood streamed down his face. He clenched his eyes shut, trembling from exhaustion. Gritting his teeth, he whispered shakily. Go, get out. I struggled to turn over and crawled out. I had just escaped the rubble and was about to turn back for Timothy when suddenly the space he'd been holding collapsed with a crash. Shouting! I screamed in heartbreak. Desperate, I knelt and dug with my bare hands as I heard Alexander and Joseph shouting from afar. Senior! Anthony! Nicholas! I cried out. He's buried underneath. Hurry! They rushed over, and together we dug frantically. My fingers were scraped raw by the stones, but I didn't notice. Timothy can't die. He must not die. That thought filled my mind. Soon, Timothy's upper body emerged, but he showed no response. We dragged him out and laid him on the grass nearby. Timothy was unconscious from suffocation. Joseph pressed his ear to Timothy's chest, listening for a heartbeat. His face paled. Not good. His heart stopped. My head buzzed, and I nearly fainted. 11. Alexander was sweating nervously, pulling out his phone to call for help, but the mountain area had poor signal. He had to hold the phone up and move around searching for coverage. I sat down next to Timothy. If something happened to him, I didn't want to live either. That thought flooded my mind. No, I had to hold on. I took deep breaths to calm myself. I remembered the first aid training I had during school. For cardiac arrest, CPR was needed. I clasped my hands, interlaced fingers, and locked my elbows straight. Using my waist to power my arms, I pressed vertically on the middle lower part of his sternum. Timothy's chest heaved violently under the pressure. Then I opened his airway, cleared dust and sand from his mouth and nose, pinched his nose, and gave mouth-to-mouth rescue breaths. After 2 rounds of artificial respiration, I resumed chest compressions. My arms grew numb and sore, but I couldn't stop. After 3 minutes, Timothy responded. He coughed and began breathing on his own. Joseph and Alexander cheered. He's responding. He's saved. My tense nerves instantly relaxed. But suddenly I felt dizzy. Bang! I collapsed, losing consciousness completely. When I woke up 5 hours later, I was lying in a hospital bed receiving an 4 drip. Timothy sat beside me, holding my hand, with bandages on his head. Weakly, I asked, "Are you okay?" I'm fine. They did a full checkup. Just some scalp wounds, not serious. Timothy gently stroked my forehead. No wonder he was gifted, his recovery was so fast, I envied him. But all this happened because of me. He could have been sitting comfortably in his office. Timothy murmured. Rest well. No more running around. Seriously, you're pregnant and still this reckless. I had been spacing out when the word pregnant hit my ears like a thunderclap. I stared at him, dumbfounded. What baby? Timothy placed his other hand on my belly, furrowing his brows. Our baby. The doctor confirmed it, it's 5 weeks. You've been running around with a fetus inside you. The doctor said the baby's tough, but you need to be more careful. This felt surreal. I thought he was joking. Are you serious? I'm pregnant. At my age, as a beta, how could I believe it? Ultrasound showed the gestational sac. How could it be fake? Timothy said proudly. Humph, do you think I'm a saint? Sleeping with you every day isn't for nothing. He was still so full of himself, but I couldn't listen anymore. I swore I never even dreamed I'd get pregnant with Timothy's child. So the recent loss of appetite, fatigue, and dizziness were pregnancy symptoms? I just thought I was getting old and my health was declining. Timothy kissed the back of my hand, mock angry. You still dare to run around with a baby? I'll chase you to the ends of the earth and bring you back. My eyes welled up. The image of Timothy unconscious just now was still vivid. I almost lost him forever. Now not only was he safe, but fate had given me such a huge surprise. All this luck poured down on me, I had no right to be ungrateful. Tears brimmed as I squeezed his hand back. I won't run anymore. I won't go anywhere. Even without the baby, I wouldn't leave Timothy again.